Welcome into the debut episode of the Hockey Card Haven podcast. Let's get into it. Welcome into the Hockey Card Haven podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano, your host, Anthony Santini, the co-host, and we're here to dive deep into the world of hockey card collecting, flipping, and investing. That's what this podcast is going to be about. It'll be a fun little adventure for us, Anthony.
Oh, it's going to be fun for sure. And my favorite part about it is we were able to take a couple days after the Expo to debrief a little bit, breathe off, let some steam out. And now we're going to have a great convo about how good the Expo was. And man, what a weekend it was.
Yeah, you've been briefing a little bit more than the rest of us. Yeah, where are you at right now? What's in behind you? I see some sun. There's not that much of it here in Toronto.
So we're in Mexico right now, 33 degrees, UV of 12. So we're definitely applying that 50 SPF. We were making sure yesterday. I mean, I almost had to go on vacation after that Expo. All that walking, man, my feet were killing me.
I know. It's such a fun weekend, the Toronto Sports Card Expo, and you do almost need like a vacation from the sports card vacation that you're on. It's one of those things because it is very busy, and if you're there for all 4 days, like you and I were, it's a lot of walking and it's a lot of weight on your back. You're like hunched over looking at cards for 4 days, and yeah, it can be very grueling to go through that for a full weekend, but we did it. It was a lot of fun. We're going to have an Expo review in a little bit. So we are going to go through our thoughts on how the Expo went, kind of give our general overall thoughts, anything that we noticed that was different. Did we learn anything about the hobby at the Expo this year? So we'll do all that. And also, take a look at some of our show pickups, which I think both of us, got some good deals and made some good plays. So we'll discuss those as well. But I think, Anthony, since this is the debut episode, the pilot episode, as they call it, we should let the people know a little bit more about us, why we're doing the show, and, like the who, what, where, when, why of the podcast. I think it's important for us to kind of get that settled right away and early on into this venture. So, why don't you start, right? Like Anthony Santini, what do the people need to know about you as a collector, as a sports fan? What do you want the people to know?
Hey, well, the first thing people have to know is I'm a big hockey fan. I'm a little bit torn right now in this Bruins and Leafs series. I am a Bruins fan, but I'm a big Austin Matthews fan. So I got to get that off my chest to start. Obviously, a big fan of the hobby. And I actually started my hobby journey like most people after COVID. I know you were in the hobby a little bit before. When I was growing up, I was collecting cards a little bit. Obviously, I used to collect. I don't know if you ever collected the Panini sticker packs, but those were my absolute favorite, putting those in the book. So I've been in the hobby for about, call it 4 years now. And if I want to look at myself as someone in the hobby, I'd say I'm more of like a flipper / collector. I know you want to have that conversation, not as much as an investor. I feel like sometimes a lot of long-term plays could be hard to predict, and the hobby,
Yeah.
the volatility of it is just absolutely insane. So for me, I love going to shows, flipping, using that profit to collect cards as well. Like obviously for my PC, I'm 22 years old, love hockey, love collecting, love making money, and love chatting about the hobby.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with you. I think especially when it comes to modern cards, I think it's tough to invest in modern. I think the flip culture is definitely where the money is at right now. I mean, if you have old vintage, established cards and stuff that is scarce, I think it's easier to invest in those types of cards. But when you're talking about, all these young guns, like I know you're a big Jean-Luc Foodie guy, I guess, for your PC, but
Yeah.
there's those. But I was buying some Alexis Lafreniere, Young Gun, stuff like that is dime a dozen, right? So it's tough to hold and invest in those long term because they're so volatile. So I was from that perspective, yeah, I think we both kind of fit in that collector flipper category. I would say. But yeah, I mean, I'm Mike DiStefano, longtime hockey fan, hockey aficionado, been collecting cards since I was a kid, man. Like it just like most people, right? You start when you're young. The big chase for me back in the day when I started was the Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin rookie card. Their rookie year is really when I got heavy into collecting hockey cards and buying packs all the time. And you know, asking my parents anytime I did a good deed, can I get a pack of hockey cards? There's a sports card shop right at the top of the corner from where I lived. And I used to go there and spend hours just talking with, there was like an 80-year-old man who owned it, or his son owned it. And he just ran it. And we would just sit there talking hockey and hockey cards forever. And it's kind of where I got my passion from. And yeah, so I was collecting for a long, long time since I was, I don't know, I guess like 10 or so years old is when I really started to understand it. And then I kind of got away from it, like most people. When I, got to high school, this was more important things to do than stupid hobbies. But once I got a couple more years into university, I would say I got back into the hobby around like McDavid's. Actually, no, it was before McDavid. Probably around 2013, 14 is when I kind of got back into it a little bit. And then McDavid's, I really, really got back into it for that year, McDavid, Matthews, and then really got heavy into the whole collecting, flipping side of things. I would say during the pandemic, like a lot of people. Beforehand, I just accumulated cards, just bought cards, never sold anything. So now the last couple of years, I've gotten more into the into buy and sell mode as opposed to just purely buy, stack my collection. But it's been a lot of fun. I've met a lot of great people in the hobby, and it's I know like you and I we met through the hobby. Like
Yeah, through the hobby,
that's how
exactly.
we met at a card show, and then just kind of linked up on Instagram. We made a deal. Remember we met up at a Tim Hortons and we made a deal for a Kale
Hey,
McCarr Retro Future Watch. That's
it,
that's how this friendship started through
it,
cards.
it's a memorable deal. It's a memorable deal, and I'm still waiting for you to send that raw Kale McCarr Future Watch auto to Beckett because I told you that day that I think it would be a good grade. So I'm gonna wait. Hopefully, a couple episodes down the road, we'll be able to reveal what it does grade. But hey, we'll see. That's where it all started. You're right.
Yeah, so that's just a little bit about Anthony and I, so you get to know us a little bit. But at the end of the day, we're kind of just two passionate hockey fans who share a passion for card collecting and kind of the business side of buying, selling, and trading hockey cards. So the where and when of the podcast. Where can you find us? When can you find us? We're going to be on YouTube to start. I think we do eventually are going to start dropping audio shows and get linked up onto Spotify, iTunes, and all that good stuff. But so far to start, we're just going to be YouTube based, the video podcast, but we will be implementing some audio elements later on down the road. So just keep that in mind. When will you be able to pick up our podcast? We're hoping every Wednesday we want to drop a new show. Every Wednesday, a new podcast, a new Hockey Card Haven podcast. And we chose the name Hockey Card Haven because that's exactly what we want to be. We want to be a haven for collectors and investors, for someone to go and find a place just to kind of get away from the BS of the world and just indulge yourself in the world of hockey cards and hockey card collecting, investing, and flipping. We'll have many conversations about the market, today's market, whether it's the vintage market, the modern market, the flipping market, players, how it's almost like a stock market in a way during the season, and the prices go up and down as the players perform. It is a lot of fun, and it's a hobby that both Anthony and I certainly enjoy. And I think we would love to have a podcast like that to listen to for ourselves. So we thought there's got to be other people who want to hear this content and want this podcast. So that's the why of why we've decided to start this bad boy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, like you said, for people to listen to, even like you mentioned too, the hobby's so much fun, and you just don't want to have too much fun where your wallet is, not having as much fun. Because like we mentioned with the Expo, it's easy to walk in, spend that money, have a lot of fun in that way, but then you're coming back and you're thinking more about, just collecting rather than flipping. So we do want to find and, provide examples of where we have been able to find that happy medium for people and just have some great hobby conversations. Because, man, I could go on and talk about the hobby, talk about cards, talk about sports. And, we are obviously the hockey card haven, mostly interested in hockey cards, but there's so many other sports that we collect as well and even look at and talk about with people too. So I'm definitely excited to do weekly conversations, weekly podcasts, and I hope you're just as excited as I am.
Absolutely, and I think you bring up a good point. Like, yes, the main focus will be hockey cards, but stuff happening around the hobby and other sports also will factor in just based on what's happening with other companies. Whether like you saw recently, Tops, and Panini and Fanatics, I guess now is the company. They extended all their redemptions, right? Like, is Upper Deck going to do that now? Like, are we going to see redemptions get extended within the hockey market and to kind of mirror and match what's happening elsewhere with their competition? So that's the type of stuff that we'll definitely be chatting about on a weekly basis. So I'm excited for it, buddy. Let's get into a little bit of an Expo review, because Expo it's awesome. If no one's been, if you haven't been to Expo yet, it's so much fun. The Toronto Sport Card Expo, they have two. They have one in the fall and one in the spring. The one in the fall is definitely the better show. It's the more busier show to go to. It's the one in the spring is still good. A lot of the same vendors and people show up, but it's I don't know, for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to be as busy. Maybe because, honestly, I have no idea why. Like, why do you think the fall show is busier than the spring show?
I mean, you said it right to start. The fall show, I think, in my opinion, is much better than the spring show.
But
So
why?
I'd say because we're in season, at the
We're in the
November show.
playoffs. It's the playoffs. You would think that people
You
be
know
more
what?
jacked
When
up.
I was having this conversation with Eric, we were chatting and we said it's tough to really go in and buy. So for a perfect example, buying, let's say, a big Tim Stutzel card right now, even though we are in the playoffs, you're going to be sitting on that card for the next 5 months, right? Your money's going to be sitting. We've had this conversation. I've probably said it so many times. There's no reason for that money to go up for the next couple months. So maybe from an investor standpoint, if you're not buying people for a quick flip that are in the playoffs, it's not the best to unload at this time. But when it's the November show, it's like hockey's a month in, basketball's getting started, football's happening. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of people, even people are traveling now too at this spring show during April. At the end of the day, I had a great time at both shows. This past one was amazing. But like you said, nothing will ever top last November, Saturday at 1 p.m., that massive huddle in the hallway. I don't know if you remember, but it was just ridiculous. There was
Dude,
thousands
sorry.
of, oh my goodness. Like, it felt like you were at a nightclub just trying to get by to get to the bar to grab a drink. And you
Yeah.
can't even look at the cards. That was just absolutely insane.
It was wild, and it really, gave you perspective on how big the hobby actually is, and the explosion that the hobby has seen over the course of the last few years. Like, I guess, like you said, you're rather new-ish to the hobby, just a few years in. I remember coming to the expo when I was younger, back when I was in university. I think last expo I went to prior to the return after the hobby, I think, was like 2016, 2015. And it was big, but it was just one hall, and it was not nearly as busy as it now is, right? Like, now it's stretched into what, three different halls technically,
Yeah, all the way
and an
out.
entire hallway. So it's like three halls and a big long hallway, connecting them all. It's massive.
Yeah, it's just insane. I don't even almost call it four halls because I don't know if you were able to get to the end there where they had all the CSC tables, but that was
The
pretty much like a
DCG.
whole. Exactly. Like, it just all the way down. They had probably at least 30 vendors there. Like, it's crazy to see how much this hobby's grown. And, I want to talk too about the autographs that they do there, the grading now. Like, this expo's growing, the hobby's growing, and it's really good to see. I mean, it's a great weekend for kids, for parents, collectors, investors. And you know what? I even tell my buddies, like we mentioned in the November show, a couple of my roommates came by the show, picked up a ticket for $20. They were a little bit optimistic with how the day was going to go. And, it can be a little bit scary if you only have $100 in your pocket and you've never collected before, but you're a massive sports fan. But when you're able to walk around, talk with people, have conversation, and at the very least do that and look at good cards, man, what a weekend you're in for.
Yeah, I had a similar story kind of happen to me this year, actually. I got a phone call from a colleague of mine, maybe on the Tuesday prior to the expo starting up, and he was asking. I guess he recently found his old collection of his cards from when he was a kid back in the '60s. So he's thinking, nah, I want to put this, the '64 Parkies set and '64 top set together. So he calls me and he's like, "Do you think that there'll be any of that at the show?" And I said, "Yes, 1,000%.
There
You
will.
will find a lot of it at the show." He's like, "Are you sure? Like that old? Like we're talking, 60 years." I'm like, "I guarantee you, there'll be plenty of '60s hockey cards at the show here." So he ended up coming, and the first thing he said to me is, "This is amazing. This is awesome. I've never expected it to be this big." He used the word overwhelmed. He's like, "I'm so overwhelmed by how much is here, and not just vintage, but like how different the modern cards look compared to they did when he was a kid. All the cool patches and patch autos that they have now, like all the colors that they have on all the cards now. There has been a massive evolution in just the aesthetic and cards over the course of the last 50 years, from back when Tops and Parkhurst were running things, and Peachy back in the '60s, '70s, and '80s, to now you got Upper Deck as the sole proprietor of hockey cards, the main guy in town, and they've got so many different cards, and they just look so cool, a lot of them. I'm curious to get your thoughts on if you learned anything about the hobby and its community, or the health of the hobby, from this year's spring expo. Did you learn anything from it?
I mean, there was a ton to learn. Like you mentioned too, like just being overwhelmed. There's so much to learn, so many people to talk to. I'd say the biggest thing I'd say is that, the hobby is really built on flippers. I really believe that. I feel like that it's almost strengthened the hobby. And just seeing at what I saw at the past expo, it really pushed that narrative for me, I believe. Although the
Interesting.
collectors,
I think it's heavy. So I believe it's heavy with collect. It's heavier than like basketball and baseball and football and like the other big sports in the South. I do think it's a much heavier collector base than those. I think there is still a strong flipping base, but I think when you look at the other four sports, there's
yeah.
certainly a lot more hardcore collectors. But I think that is why the hockey card hobby is healthier than the other ones and less volatile.
Yeah, I think so too. Like we were saying before, the young gun, it's kind of like the rookie card. The Future Watch Auto is kind of like the rookie autograph card, like the card. But then when
The
you look
marquee
at
ones, yeah.
basketball, there's Prism, there's Optic, there's Donruss, there's Mosaic, right? There's lots of options. To go back on what we were chatting about, I know you might think that the base is solely on collectors. I think that flippers are really what drives the motivation for a lot of these people to come to shows. Because I mean, I've collected cards. I've said to myself, you know what, I really want to collect a bunch of Future Watch autos of players that I watched growing up, right? I'll pick up a card for 20. 2 months later it's worth 17, then it's worth 15. So I feel like sometimes when you're solely collecting, you can see a constant decrease in value, I'd say, for some slash most cards. And I feel like the market can almost, I believe the market can back up that statement, I believe.
For most, yeah, most cards for sure. I like
For
lose
most cards.
lose
So
money, but
for sure. So for some collectors, it could be
especially like a
frustrating.
Matthews or a McDavid collector, that stuff doesn't quite lose as much money.
Yeah, if you're McKinnon, McDavid, Matthews, Pasternak, Kale McCarr, some of these big players, oh, you're cashing in, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree, but I think when you look at like what did you learn, I suppose, like when I answer that question of what did I learn about the hobby, I think I learned that the hobby's in pretty good shape. right? Like you saw so many people there. You saw so many different transactions, and I think that prices are at a point where things make more sense now. Like a couple of years ago, back when you got into the hobby during the pandemic, when pricing for everything was just sky high and skyrocketed, I think things have mellowed out a little bit more, and prices make more sense. I think is how I want to phrase it, and I think it's healthy that way. Like the fact that outside of Connor Bedard's market, Bedard's
The
market
one
still to me
card.
is
The one card. It's okay. Just the one card.
it's still wild. Well, just any card really. Like even the fact that his like O-Pee-Chee paper rookies are worth more than like or more or the same as a McDavid O-Pee-Chee paper rookie is wild to me. But that's the market because he's the flavor of the month. He's what's hot right now. So people, it's the supply and demand, right? Like ultimately the market is supply and demand. And as people are still ripping these products to flood the market with these cards, these O-Pee-Chee paper Bedard cards, they will eventually start to go down a little bit. And the same thing with the young guns. As more get open, the more it's going to go down. The summer coming, him not playing is also going to impact that market. But at the end of the day, I still think it's a tad high. That being said, I think the hobby's in a really good place right now. I don't think it's as volatile as it's been in the last couple of years. I think it's kind of mellowed out, and where we're at is a pretty good indicator of I think where things have leveled out and where things should be at moving forward. Whether that's you know player performance impacting things a little bit, but not the economy. I don't think is necessarily going to impact values a whole lot anymore.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like you said, like you look at so many cards and you say to yourself, you know what, that value seems fair. And a perfect example is that was at the Expo. I saw a Sergachev Future Watch Auto Raw, looked pretty good, stickered for $25. And in the back of my mind, I was like,
Did you not pick it up?
I didn't pick it up. And then the back,
Why?
exactly. And in the back of my mind, I was, and listen, I'm gonna get to the point, and I was like, man, that seems fair. Like that $25, I almost just want to just not even look up a comp, give them the $25 and say, thanks, have a great day. I looked up the comp and the comp was like $14, $16. So I found myself at the Expo looking at a lot of cards, looking at a lot of stickers, saying to myself, you know what, that seems like a fair price, but almost looking at comps and saying, oh my goodness, comp is almost half, right? Comp is
Yeah,
15% of sticker.
yeah. I wonder if sometimes to a fault we rely too strongly on the comp and not enough on the card. I
Oh,
wonder if that is a fault of us flippers and collectors because another example, that Nick Suzuki card that I did end up grabbing that you were looking at, right? Like an on card Nick Suzuki auto number to 199 feels like it should be worth $90, right?
yeah.
It feels like it should. But then you look up a comp and it suggests otherwise. And it's weird and in my head I'm thinking, but this should be worth that much. So if you're so focused on the comp and the price and you miss out on the card because you're afraid to overpay, it could hurt you. It could backfire, right? You don't end up buying that card. But if you really like it and you think like this is undervalued, it's going for this right now, but it shouldn't. It should be more like that Nick Suzuki. It's a credentials debut ticket access auto. Credentials, I think, is not like it's not a terrific product. It's not known as one of the top tier products, but like the fact that it's an on card auto rookie and
It's numbered,
it's
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 graded.
graded, numbered. It's Nick Suzuki. He plays for the Montreal Canadiens. He's their captain. It has all the elements you want to thinking that it should be, a desired card. I had to pick it up. Like I know when you look at it for comp purposes, there was one that went for lower and it was numbered lower. But when I'm thinking in my head, a Nick Suzuki autographed card to 199, graded on card, Montreal Canadiens. I think the value should be right in and around $90. I think I got it for a little cheaper than that, obviously. But I didn't necessarily go based off of the comp because I believe that it should be worth more. And a real Suzuki collector, this is why I think the collector base is important, will pay, $90 to $100 for that card because they like it. Because they think it looks cooler than maybe some of the other ones, like a Black Diamond auto, because it's a sticker auto on Black Diamond, higher
Yeah,
end brand, but it's sticker auto. It's a little meh. You know what I mean? So I bit the bullet. I bought the card, not the comp that time, and I think it'll work out for me in the future.
see, I like the way you phrased it there. You bought the card and not the comp, and it's the perfect way to talk about a situation like that. I mean, to me, a player like Nick Suzuki, captain of a Canadian market, one of the biggest Canadian markets in the hobby and in the NHL, a card like that should be worth an $100 bill. You should be able to set up, put in a $115 sticker on that, let's call it, and someone comes up, they're a big Montreal fan, and they're like, you know what? Here's an $100 bill. Thank you very much. I'm going to take this card. I love it. It's graded. It's numbered. It's on-card auto. It's a rookie, I believe you said. Nice Suzuki. And, sometimes it's the little things that I notice on the card too. Like if you go back and look up a photo of the card, or I don't even know if you have it on you, but there's a big fat Montreal logo. Yeah, exactly. Right there. Big fat Montreal logo on the card. Real nice. Auto's clean. Don't see any smudges. Don't see it coming off the card. Nice little spot for it on the bottom there. Graded a PSA 9. Should be worth $100 to me, no matter the comp, for a collector. So I definitely agree that hobbyists, collectors, investors can get stuck on the comps. Even at trade night, it's very, very frustrating. And
I don't know, but I didn't make a single trade on trade night. I made a purchase. I made two purchases, but I didn't make a single trade, I would say.
Well, I was going to say, sorry, I was going to say, because sometimes people that want to come buy stuff, they'll say, oh, how much does this card go for? Oh, I only buy at 70% of comp, right? Like no matter what the comp is, you'll still buy it at 75% of the comp or 85% of the comp. Like I was trying to do a deal for a McDavid Young Guns Raw, which notoriously, that $1,000 mark is very clean for it. $1,000 McDavid Raw Young Guns.
Yeah.
And if you're able to get it for any younger, pretty sweet deal based on condition. And I said to the guy that we were trying to do a deal, I was like, look, I want $1,000. I don't mind trading in value. I don't mind cash. And he said to me, well, I can't get there because the comp was like $975, which means he wanted to pay like $650, which is 70%. Not to get into, I don't have a calculator on me, but I was like, I almost want to say, listen, man, like you're not gonna pay 70% on a McDavid Young Guns Raw. You're not gonna go up to a table and be like, oh, look, there's a McDavid Young Guns PSA 10. Here's the comp. Let me give you 70% of that in cash. It won't happen.
It doesn't work that way, especially on trade night and when you're doing like one-on-one deals with collectors. And you got to know that you're both working at 100% comps. Like that's what you're doing on trade night, and that's what you're doing when you're working with one-on-one collectors or investors, flippers, whatever you want to call yourselves. The only way you can get away with the 7% buy is if if someone comes to you and says, hey, do you want to buy my cards? Then you have the leverage. Like I did, I set up for the Saturday and Sunday at the show, and I had people coming up to me and buying cards, and that's where I had the leverage. And I sat there and said, yep, I'll take a look at what you have, but just so you know, there's got to be room for me. It's got to make sense. Basically, my process is I'm going to comp it out, and then I'm going to offer you 70%, and it's basically a take it or leave it. And I let them know that right off the bat, but that's because I have the upper hand. I have the leverage. I'm setting up. I'm at the booth. I'm paying rent to be here type of thing. So that's kind of the reason why you're allowed to do that in certain circumstances, but not as a peer-to-peer. You can't get away with that.
Yeah, no, I don't think you could get away with that at all. Like, let's say me and you were to do a deal and I just want to give you cash. It can be tough to say that. But when you're set up at the Expo, not even at the Expo, just set up maybe at the Hamilton show, which we're at all the time, and you're a dealer, you paid your $50 for the table, or you're at the Expo and you paid your $200 a day, whatever it might be, to be set up, you almost can't buy at the full comp because people aren't going to buy at full comp. And I feel like a conversation like this is exactly the fuel that drives the car of this podcast. So stuff like this really gets me going. It really gets my blood going or my blood boiling. And I mean, as an investor, as a flipper, I'd like to stay within the margins of 80 to 95% of the comp. But it's very frustrating to say to people, like, I'm only buying at this number. They're only going to buy from me. So that's why I don't, sometimes I try not to even look up the comp. I try to go with my intuition. And, I've done well sometimes, but I've also really been burnt sometimes, like really
Yeah.
bad. So it's a little bit of give and take. It's a little bit of give and take for sure.
For sure, and hey, it's give and take, live and learn. It's that's why it's at the end of the day, it's a hobby and it's fun, right? Like you and I are doing this for funds. It's not our full time careers. I mean, some people, it is like to make it their career or think that it's their career, but most of us all have real jobs, and this is just kind of our weekend little side hustle. That's fun. That's within our range of our interests, which is sports and sports cards and collecting and business. Being business savvy as well. But it's at the end of the day, it is just a hobby and it's supposed to be fun. So when people make it all about the money, it kind of takes away from it a little bit. You hear that? You hear that going on out there downtown Toronto? Tons and
Can't even hear
tons
it.
of. Oh, you didn't hear it?
No, no.
Oh man, we got I don't know, like fire, ambulance, police, all that going by the
But
window.
yeah, I mean, I don't know what I got. I guess I got 30-degree weather, some people walking by, some birds chirping out there. So
Yeah, no, I much prefer to be in Mexico right now. I'll tell you that. Much prefer to be in
yeah.
Mexico. All right, what do we pick up, dude? Like what actually before we get into pickups, I want to know what was the game plan for you going into this year's Expo and did you execute on your game plan?
Oh boy. I mean, I had a little bit of time to debrief, even with just myself, and look at some cards before I left for Mexico. And that was my goal. I didn't want to come here on vacation without knowing, how much I spent, who I bought, what's gradable, what's not gradable. So on that Sunday night, I was able to reflect, look at what I picked up, and you want to know my plan. My plan, I had no plan at all coming in that Thursday. I don't know if I remember having a conversation with you or Eric, but I was like, look, I don't feel like I'm in expo mode right now. I don't know if I should buy for the playoffs. I don't know if I should buy to grade. Like these cards won't come back for 2 months. Season's not for another 4 or 5. So I was a
Right.
little all over the place. Should I collect to invest? Should I collect for my personal collection? What should I do here? As the weekend went on, I started to look more for cards that I could grade, some raw cards, some mint cards, some nice stuff. I feel like that was the plan that I want to stick to. And because that Thursday went so well for me, I was able to pick up, the usual stuff to grade, like the Kale McCarr Young Guns, the Quinn Hughes Young Guns, the Jack Hughes Young Guns, stuff like that, that if they look good, they are worth sending to PSA. So I'll say that in the grand scheme of things, I did execute on that. I mean, I know we're going to get into our pickups too. I want to hear your game plan as well, because I know you shifted a little bit come Friday or Saturday. I believe you actually ended up grabbing the boost, setting up, and things
Yeah.
changed real quick.
Yeah, no, you know what, I did have a plan, going into it, and the first couple days I definitely stuck to that plan. Thursday, so I was there all 4 days, right? So my original plan was Thursday, I was going to be dollar bin hunting. I wanted to get there on Thursday. It's the first day. It's they call it the preview night. Not very busy. There's not a lot of people, and hardly a lot of the dealers, like the guys who are set up there, they don't necessarily go through the dollar bins as much because the guys who are set up are more, about the bigger plays, right? They're
And they're
looking
busy
for
too. They're busy.
graded stuff, some good players, right? That's what they are, more higher end stuff. So the dollar bins are basically untouched by the time we get there on Thursday. And I think that's a good time to, make some good plays, right? It's low risk, high reward plays. I found this $1 bin. I was telling you about it. I can't remember if I sent you the video link of all the stuff that I opened, but the total numbers. Hold on, I actually have it here. I wrote it down.
Here we go.
I wrote it down because I needed. Well, I needed to just like know exactly what I did. Hold on, where is it here? So I bought in total, oh boy, like 300 cards basically off this one dollar and quarter bin box. I bought 171 quarter cards. I bought $156 cards. And then they had like a $5 box or 3 for 10. So I ended up finding 3 cards that worked. But then I also, because I bought so much in bulk, I got a deal because then it was like, 5 quarter cards for $1. And then it was
Yeah,
buy $25 cards for $20. And then because again, I bought so much of it, I ended up getting a deal off of that as well. And it came out to all the quarter cards that I bought, I paid 20 cents per card. All the dollar cards I bought, I paid 76 cents per card. And then for, I guess, yeah, the $3 cards, they almost were free. They're almost like thrown in basically the $5 cards that I bought just based on, how we did everything. And so basically I ended up with like 330 cards. I paid like $160. But dude, I got some heat in those cards. Like there was a couple of Jordan Love rookie select silvers in there. There was a really cool Mike Trout stained glass refractor in there, unlicensed. It was Prism, but still a cool card that goes for like 15, $20. I got it for $1. There's a Caitlin Clark hardwood Warriors refractor. It's like a $25, $30 card. There's a bunch of other like numbered select football and select rookies. There was a red select Jalen Hurts rookie that's like a $25 card. Like I would say probably like it was a 300 plus card lot. I would say I'll have paid that off, the full $160 that I paid for it, probably within the first, like with the 5 big cards that I pulled, and then the rest of it is just like pure
it's just
profit.
yeah.
And like we're talking CD Lamb rookies, we're talking Justin Jefferson rookies, dazzlers in hockey. We're talking young guns. I was getting like Jake Neighbors young guns, Dakota Joshua young guns for $1. Joel Eriksson Ek. I got like 4 Joel Eriksson Ek young guns for $1 plus a couple of
Oh,
canvases.
that's
There was
ridiculous.
good stuff in there. Dude, Ryan Suter. I got a Ryan Suter young gun for $1. Brent Seabrook. It was
What?
crazy the heat that was in these bins, and I was just blown away. That's why I spent so much money. I came away with a big stack, like 300 cards. It was insane. It was crazy. A cool like a Matt Sundin rookie card from the 90s. Like I know they're not worth anything, but how can I turn down a Matt Sundin rookie card for 25 cents? I
No,
couldn't.
seriously, like I remember we had, I think it was Blackbeards. I don't know if you want to shout them out, but that was the booth that hooked you up. And I mean, you did scoop. I remember seeing a Josh Allen numbered card from Select too, and in my head I'm looking at that thing and I'm like, there's no reason that you shouldn't throw that in a one touch. Even put at the bare minimum, a nice $5 to $10 tag on it. And when you're picking up cards like that for a quarter to $1, it might take a little bit longer to sell cards under $10, but in the long term, especially if you're setting up like, maybe once a month at a show, once every 2 months, like they're going to move, especially with, like you said, CD Lamb, Joel Eriksson Ek, like these are some big names in the sport.
These are some of like the hockey, right? Just like some dads. These are all Series 2 inserts, but like the inserts for Series 2, but it's not just regular inserts. Like it's the sparkle ones
Yeah.
from like, and it's of good players. We're talking Jack Hughes, like an Alex Ovechkin Ecliptic Sparkle, like Sidney Crosby Ecliptic Sparkle, Hughes, Matthews Ecliptic. Like we're talking the PC Pixels, Kale McCarr, like they were 20 cents, bro. Like it was insane what I was getting this
Good
stuff
deal.
for.
That's
It
a
was
deal.
wild, man. And like, yeah, like you said, like a bunch of the young guns and some of the higher end football that I got. I don't know if I have some of these on me. Yeah, like Jalen Hurts select rookie. Like I know it's not hockey, but Jalen Hurts rookie. These
Yeah.
ones were definitely like the biggest ones. The select
Yeah.
refractor rookie refractors. If you can see the
Yeah. 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 It's like the silver.
yeah, like those were definitely the biggest ones with the big outbursts from Jordan Love this past year. So there was a lot of really good finds in that dollar bin. So that was kind of my plan on Thursday was to hunt into the dollar bins, find some good cards to restock for when I set up at shows. I need to have good value boxes, from like $1, $2, $5 up to like $20. Like I got a lot of value bins when I set up at card shows. So I wanted to restock it with some good stuff. Kind of rotate my what I have. So that was my plan, and I executed that pretty good. I would say, on Thursday. And then Friday, it was about trying to pick up some nice singles, some graded Young Guns or some Future Watch autos or some numbered stuff. Which again, I think I did well with that. I ended up picking up Lucas Raymond Young Guns. I picked up what else did I get? A Jordan Cairo graded Young Guns. I grabbed a couple a Lafreniere Young Gun, some other PSA 9 Young Guns, a PD BGS 9.5. Like, I ended up making some good grabs, some other sports as well. But ultimately, we were focused on hockey, and it was cool. It was awesome. So that was kind of Friday, and then my plan shifted. I was offered to sit down at a booth basically and sell some cards. Gave me like a showcase just to kind of sit and sell. And so I did more selling at this show than buying.
Can't
But
complain there.
no, I can't complain at all. Well, don't get it wrong. I am still down money. I'm still
Oh,
down a lot of money
oh,
on the weekend based on everything that I did purchase and buy and sell. But I'm also up a lot of cards. Like,
yeah,
even
yeah,
sitting down as a seller, people come to you and they're like, "Hey, I'm looking to sell my cards." And that's what I was talking about. When you're behind a booth, you have that opportunity to buy stuff at a cheaper rate. That's
yeah,
when you can get away with, yes, but I can only buy at 70% because I have
yeah,
to pay for all of this, blah, blah, blah. There's got to be room on it. People understand that. And that's where I got some of these really cool cards like this Alexi Lafreniere jersey patch auto from Team Canada, number to 125 for
I
Laffy.
remember we were talking about that one.
This Kobe Bryant game used jersey, Court Kings, number to 299.
Oh, I didn't see
Like, oh, did I not show you that?
No, that's crazy. Game use
Yeah,
pack.
no, that was a good pickup. It was the same pickup as like it was a
Yeah,
A Tim Thomas Young Guns was involved in that deal. A Marc-Andre Fleury rookie gems from Black Diamond was involved in that deal. So yeah, I like it kind of shifted a little bit, but I think ultimately it worked out. And then at the very end, the guy who let me set up in his booth, he just had a few modern cards. He's more a vintage guy, and he's moving, so he didn't have a lot. That's why he offered me the rest of his showcase. He was an Owls Brother fan. That's kind of how we met before. But at the end of the show, I was like, "What do you want for the rest of your modern cards? I'll buy you out." And we came up with a deal. I even ended up buying the showcase, like literally
I think
the
you mentioned
physical,
that showcase.
the physical showcase as well.
And I think
It
you
was,
needed one because I remember that one morning. It was probably a couple months ago, but you were headed to the show and your thing just like blew up, right? Like you dropped on the
yeah,
floor and it broke, right? I think I remember you mentioning it.
yeah. And then, so I was using like that wood one, but it's not
The best.
very good. This one's a nice one. So yeah, that one included. That's where I got the Nick Suzuki debut ticket access auto. There's a Kel McCarr that when they brought back the Metal Universe. So it's the first year PMG bringing back the Metal Universe. That's a PSA 9. And then Kel McCarr debut ticket. Like stuff like this, it's bizarre. Like, it's numbered to 199. It's rookie year. It's on card. It's why this isn't more money and more like worth more is wild to me. How this is worth less than, let's say, like the retro Future Watch auto is crazy because like the retro is worth about $500 to $600, but there's 400 of them. Or even the regular Future Watch auto where it's worth $800. There's 1,000 of them. There's only 199 of these, and it's still on card. It's got color. It looks sick, and it's only worth a few $100s. It's wild. So that was an instance where it's like, just buy the card, not the comp, pay full price for it because it should be worth more, and the right Makar collector will pay to have this in their collection. Because again, it's all about supply and demand. There's a lot less supply of this card than there is of his Young Guns, than there is of all the some of these other cards that are outlandishly printed, and all the sticker autos and all that. So to me, although it's credentials, I think it looks clean, it looks awesome, and it's a cool card to have. So that was one of those buy the card, not the comp deals as well. So those are some of my favorite pickups that I had throughout the show. Did you have any favorite pickups from the show for you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a ton, like just tons of cards that I picked up. I made a little list, and I don't have them on me, but I do have photos. which I mean, that'll be sufficient. So I picked up 5 cards that I really loved and I wanted to show. So let's start. The first one I picked up that I absolutely loved was a Tim Stutzel Future Watch.
Nice.
Picked up 2 of them, sold one, or with a pasta. Sold that though. Picked up 2 Stutzel Future Watches. I'm probably going to grade one, sold the other one. Both looked pretty good, and I sold the other to a Stutzel collector, so I was happy to get that to him. The second favorite that I picked up was a Matthew Tkachuk Future Watch.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Cracked it, looked good. Love Matthew Tkachuk, so he's definitely a playoff performer for sure. So
yeah,
I feel like
PSA 10 Young Guns.
Yeah, pretty safe investment now, but we'll see what that looks like in a couple months because, I mean, hey, Florida could be playing Boston. They could be playing Toronto after Toronto's big win last night. We'll see. We'll definitely see. Third, we got Elias Pettersson Future Watch.
Beautiful.
Looks pretty nice. Nice auto. I know they just lost to Nashville last night, but I'm still hoping they could go on to win this series, maybe end up beating either of LA or the Oilers. So we'll see with that.
He's got to pick it up, though. Him specifically. He's not having a great playoff. He's got to get going. Like his market overall is down. Like I would say of the players who were red hot at the Fall Expo, who were not at the Spring Expo, Jack Hughes was red hot. Everyone wanted Jack Hughes at the Fall Expo. And then I would say Elias Pettersson was the next guy who's taken the biggest kind of fall in the hobby in terms of desirability and even, price. Like he's going for like $350 in a PSA 10 Young Guns
Seriously.
At the show last year. And you could pick them up for pretty cheap, like $180, $175. You could probably snag one at this year's show. It's kind of wild how much he's fallen, but Future Watch is different story. Everyone wants the Future Watch.
Yeah, they're so desirable, and like we talked about earlier, it's kind of like the rookie autograph, for Upper Deck. Yeah, and my final pickup, I mean, probably my favorite, not the most expensive, but a card that I can't wait to bring to the Montreal Expo with me. I know we were talking about it. I'm headed there May 24th. That's going to be a time, and I can't wait to have this. Looks sweet. Part of the Montreal crest in the middle. It's Nick Suzuki Supreme patches from SP Game Use out of 15. It's a Game Use patch. Absolutely ridiculous. Picked it up for just around, I mean, it was part of like a big lot deal, maybe $30 to $40 in that range was kind of the value. I got offered $90 on the spot at trade night from another guy, and I kind of just declined it. Didn't even look up a comp, didn't look at anything. I said, I'm just going to hold on to it. It's not a card you see all the time, and it's definitely not a card that you're going to see for a good price like that when I'm in Montreal.
I'm curious, do you prefer patches or autos?
I mean, it's got to be an auto, especially if it's on card. It depends. I'd rather probably have a patch like that over a sticker auto, but I'd rather – have the on-card auto rather than the patch.
And the reason why I asked was because like of the credentials auto, right?
Yeah.
Because of the one that I picked up there, the credentials auto, where it was like, again, if you solely went based on what, because you tried to buy it first, and you made an offer to the guy based off of a comp of one that was to 99 or something, or to.
Yeah, that was, I mean, what was going through my head was when I was chatting with you and I saw that in the case, I was like, I mean, you know me, I need Montreal stuff for the Expo. So that's what I was attacking all weekend. And it had a $90 tag, didn't look that bad. And I remember picking up like a sticker auto for $40. I was like, okay, I didn't want to offer $50 on the spot and seem like it was a super low ball if I didn't have any like valid comps to kind of back up that offer. So I checked it out. There was like a out of 81, I think, or maybe out of 79, something like that, that sold for $80. And I was like, look, man, like lower serial number or lower numbered card, probably worth more, right? Would you do 50? And he kind of just shook it off. He wasn't really too interested in it, which I totally understand. I mean, hey, I wouldn't sell a Nick Suzuki on-card auto for $50. So
right, rookie at that.
Rookie too, and already graded. Like it costs what, $30 to grade?
Yeah. Exactly. That's why it was a no-brainer for me to buy the card, not the comp at the price he I didn't pay 90 for it, but I got a decent deal when I all said and done when I bought all of his stuff. But yeah, like it's Nick Suzuki is definitely a guy to buy if you're heading to Montreal, and that's something that we will definitely be chatting more about too. I'm excited for you to go to Montreal, you and Eric. We'll definitely have to kind of get your thoughts ahead of time, what your goal is, what the plan is going to be going into it, and then afterwards to see if you accomplished it, how you attacked it, and how it differs from the Toronto Sports Card Expo, because neither of us have been to another one of them. I don't believe, like the Sports Card Expo. Obviously been to other shows, but not those big shows like
I
that.
mean,
That'll be a different experience.
yeah, I've never traveled to like another show more than, let's call it, like an hour away, right? Like
Yeah,
I've been to
GTA.
Barrie, I've been to Oakville, I've been to Woodbridge, Mississauga, Niagara, all those little shows that are in the area, but I've never said to myself, okay, I'm gonna spend the money on a hotel, the food, the gas, all that stuff, travel to go to a sports card show, try and make money, try and sell stuff, try and network, meet people. So we are leaving on the Friday. Looks like that Wednesday we'll be recording the podcast. So maybe I could do even like a little segment, 5 goals, 5 ideas, something like that. And then next week do a nice little debrief on how I thought, the Montreal Expo was.
Beauty. And that's what weekend is that?
May 24th. May 24th weekend, but they're doing the day off is the week before, which is like the 18th. You know how it's like the May 2-4 week long weekend?
Yeah.
It's like I think the 19th is the day off, the Monday. It's either the 18th or the 19th that
The
people are off.
20th is the day off.
I think something
Yeah.
like that on the Monday.
Yeah. 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 Well, that we'll both be at that one, I would assume. The one in Hamilton on that weekend. But should be a good time. I'm excited for you to go down to that show. I'm excited to hear the difference between the shows and your experience there. So that's the type of stuff that we'll be getting into here on the Hockey Card Haven podcast. First show, well, except for the couple of splices, which I'm sure people watching, if they've made it this far, definitely noticed a couple of edit spots due to unforeseen circumstances, we'll call it. Other than that, first show was a success, Anthony. I'm excited to see what we can produce going forward.
Oh, definitely a success. I mean, next week I'm already excited. Like I mentioned, I have that PSA submission coming back. Haven't looked at the grades just yet. Maybe we could do even a live reveal on the pod. So we'll have that in hand. We'll take a look at it and see how I did on that PSA submission that I've been waiting for 2 months, man. Hopefully my Jean-Luc Foudy high gloss can get that 10. I need it. I need it.
Yes, that's exactly what's going to be in store. Once we get those, we'll do the live reveal for sure on the pod. That's to do it for us here today on the show. I'd like to thank everyone for listening and supporting. We'd love it if you would please subscribe to the show here on YouTube. New content coming out each and every Wednesday for all you hockey card lovers. We plan to get going audio wise for you on the go listeners at some point as well. But for now, YouTube only. So we'd appreciate if you would subscribe and leave a comment down below your thoughts on anything that we had to say today and join in on the conversation down in the comment section. We'll be back on another episode of the Hockey Card Haven next week on Wednesday. For Anthony, I'm Mike. Take care, everyone.
Cheers.